The mysterious woman was no other than Madame Vero, but before she became the untouchable figure of wealth and power, she was known as Veronique Chukwuma. Born in a small village in southeastern Nigeria, Veronique grew up surrounded by whispers of her family's ancient ties to the spiritual world. Her mother, a herbalist respected in the village, often spoke of rituals passed down through generations. Though skeptical, Veronique admired her mother's strength and independence. At the age of 18, Veronique left the village behind and moved to Lagos. She was determined to escape poverty and make a better life for herself. By day, she worked tirelessly as a seamstress, and by night, she studied business management at a local college. Lagos was a city of opportunities, but also of predators. Veronique met Chief Obiora at a high society gala where she worked as a server. Obiora, a man of influence, saw her ambition and offered her a chance to enter a world she couldn't imagine. At first, Veronique hesitated. Chief Obiora's promises of wealth came with a price: loyalty to a secretive network. The group's leader, the Grandmaster, was said to have powers that could guarantee wealth, influence, and protection, but only for those willing to make sacrifices. Desperate to escape her struggles, Veronique agreed. Over time, she transformed into Madame Vero, a name that echoed fear and respect in elite circles. Victor wasn't always the confident gym instructor women admired. A few years earlier, he had been a struggling graduate, unable to find a stable job. One fateful day, he crossed paths with Madame Vero. Her charisma was undeniable, and her promises of wealth and purpose were too tempting for Victor to resist. Madame Vero saw potential in Victor. She groomed him to be a recruiter for her rituals, which involved impregnating women with a special seed given by the Grandmaster. Each successful pregnancy brought Madame Vero immense wealth and extended her influence. Victor became her trusted worker, tasked with luring unsuspecting women into her web. "Victor, you're doing the world a favor," Madame Vero would say, her voice dripping with charm. "These women will unknowingly become vessels for something greater, and you'll be rewarded beyond your imagination." Victor, blinded by greed, followed her instructions without question. For years, he perfected his routine, using his charm and the allure of fitness to manipulate his clients. But deep down, guilt began to fester. Back in the present, Victor sat in his holding cell, haunted by the faces of the women he had deceived. Halima, Amaka, Ngozi, and Chidinma were no longer his admirers. They were his accusers. The investigation was relentless, and the detectives were closing in on the truth. Inspector Michael, the lead investigator, was determined to uncover the full extent of Victor's crimes. Evidence from Victor's phone revealed messages, schedules, and payments that hinted at a larger operation. But Victor refused to reveal Madame Vero's name, knowing the consequences of betrayal. "Victor," Inspector Michael said during an interrogation, "we know you weren't acting alone. Tell us about the woman you've been meeting with." Victor's silence was deafening. He knew Madame Vero would stop at nothing to protect herself and the Grandmaster. The revelation sent shockwaves through the lives of Victor's victims. Halima struggled to rebuild her life after her bitter divorce. Her once thriving marriage was in shambles, and her community ostracized her. Left to raise her child alone, Halima battled feelings of regret and betrayal. Amaka, abandoned by her husband, sank into depression. Her once vibrant home was now a shadow of its former self. Ngozi, once the pride of her corporate world, was now jobless and financially unstable. The stigma of her pregnancy isolated her from her friends and colleagues. Chidinma, expelled from university and disowned by her family, faced an uncertain future. The shame of her situation forced her into solitude. Their pain was a constant reminder of Victor's betrayal, but it also fueled their determination to seek justice. Meanwhile, the media frenzy around Victor's case intensified. Charles, Victor's former colleague, revealed details about Victor's past scandal at another gym. This revelation led reporters to Madame Vero's name, though no one could confirm her identity. Madame Vero, ever the strategist, began eliminating traces of her involvement. She paid off informants and burned documents, but the detectives were closing in. One witness, a former employee of Madame Vero, came forward with crucial information about her occult practices and her connection to the Grandmaster. The Grandmaster, a shadowy figure who rarely appeared in public, was the source of Madame Vero's power. His rituals required sacrifices, both physical and emotional. Madame Vero, with her network of operatives like Victor, ensured the rituals were carried out flawlessly. In return, the Grandmaster showered her with wealth and protection. But as the investigation reached a boiling point, cracks began to show in their operation. Victor's silence could no longer shield Madame Vero. Detectives found financial records linking her to FitLife Gym, and her name began to surface in whispers. Victor, facing years in prison, finally broke. "I can't do this anymore," he told Inspector Michael. "Madame Vero, she's behind everything." With Victor's confession, the police launched a raid on Madame Vero's mansion. The scene was surreal. Hidden chambers filled with ritualistic artifacts, stacks of cash, and evidence of her connection to the Grandmaster. Madame Vero, dressed in her signature luxurious attire, was arrested in front of her stunned associates. "This isn't over," she said calmly as the police led her away. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." The trial of Madame Vero and Victor became a national spectacle. Victims testified, recounting their harrowing experiences. The courtroom was filled with tension as Madame Vero's calm demeanor cracked under the weight of the evidence. Halima, Amaka, Ngozi, and Chidinma found strength in each other, their shared pain transforming into resilience. While the scars of their experiences remained, they took solace in knowing justice was being served. As for Victor, he was sentenced to life in prison. Madame Vero received the same fate, her empire dismantled piece by piece. The Grandmaster, however, remained elusive, his influence lingering like a shadow over the case. Months after the trial, the victims embarked on a journey of healing, each determined to turn their pain into power. The process wasn't easy, but it was transformative. Halima, who once found herself ostracized by her community, poured her heart into creating a space for others to feel accepted. Using her own experience as a single mother, she opened a daycare center in her neighborhood, offering affordable childcare to struggling parents. Her center became a haven not just for children, but also for mothers who sought solace in her strength. Halima often held workshops on emotional healing and financial independence, encouraging women to reclaim their dignity. Her story became an inspiration to many, and local media often referred to her as a pillar of hope. Amaka, once drowning in betrayal, found her calling in advocacy. She became a fierce advocate for women's rights, using her voice to challenge societal norms that blamed victims instead of perpetrators. She organized rallies, lobbied for stricter laws on gender-based violence, and appeared on talk shows to share her story. Her work eventually caught the attention of international organizations, and she was invited to speak at global conferences on the resilience of women. Amaka's passion ignited a movement, and her name became synonymous with courage. Ngozi, haunted by the shame she once felt, chose to turn her vulnerability into strength. She started a support group for survivors of abuse, creating a safe space for women to share their stories without fear of judgment. The group began with just a handful of members, but quickly grew into a community of hundreds. Ngozi's sessions often ended with uplifting activities, from meditation to art therapy, helping women find new ways to express their pain and triumph. She later partnered with a mental health organization, ensuring that every survivor in her group had access to professional counseling. Ngozi's efforts earned her recognition as a trailblazer in emotional healing. Chidinma, the youngest among the women, refused to let her past define her future. Determined to reclaim her life, she returned to school with an unshakable resolve. Despite the whispers and judgment from peers, she excelled academically, becoming a role model for young women facing similar challenges. Her perseverance caught the attention of a scholarship foundation, which funded her studies through graduation. Upon completing her degree, Chidinma began speaking at youth events, encouraging others to prioritize education and never let setbacks dictate their destiny. In the end, the tale of Madame Vero, Victor, and the Grandmaster was more than just a cautionary tale about greed and power. It was a testament to the unyielding strength of those who refuse to be silenced. It reminded the world that even in the face of unimaginable betrayal and pain, there is always room for hope, healing, and redemption. Hey guys, if you got to this point of this video, comment where you are watching from. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more amazing stories.